It's an astonishing statistic. The United Nations says more than 1 million people have been left homeless since the outbreak of fighting in South Sudan last December. Uganda, Kenya and Ethiopia have had to bear the burden of refugees, and despite an increase in the number of those fleeing, the necessary aid is slow to reach them. Now the UN is appealing for millions of dollars for help. Focus on Africa's Emmanuel Igunza visited Gambella camp in Ethiopia and sent this report.
A family in grief. Just hours after crossing the border into Ethiopia, the last-born has succumbed to sickness. They had walked for 3 weeks, scared, hungry and tired. But the long trek to escape the bloody clashes in South Sudan have proved too much for the 6-month-old child. This clinic at Pagak border point is the lifeline for many ravaged by the 3 months of fighting. But even the doctors here are overwhelmed.
Most of the children arrive in a very bad state of malnutrition, sometimes dehydration. There is also a missile outbreak going on, what constitutes the background for an important vulnerability. Most of the time we have time to transfer them to the hospital. Unfortunately, this child was so much in a state of vulnerability that there was nothing we could do.
And in this conflict, it is the most vulnerable who are bearing the brunt. Nyamal Lamtap is just 13 years. She's now an orphan. Her mother was killed in Malakal last December. And then she helplessly watched as her little brother died of hunger as they tried to escape the fighting.
We were 3 children in our family. My father was a soldier and died during the last civil war. My mother was working as a cook in Malakal. When fighting broke out, we came home one day and were told that our mother had been killed. Only 2 of us got to the border Pagat, and my brother died on the way here.
But thousands of others have made it across the border. These are among the 1 million people the United Nations says have been displaced by the fighting.
Every day, 800 new refugees like this one cross the border into Ethiopia to camps like this one. And as part of the assistance they are given by the United Nations is a ration of food, including wheat and vegetable oil. But the UN says this is not enough. They require and have made an appeal for $100 million to last until June of this year.
Food aid has been trickling in from donors, but the UN says much more needs to be done to help the thousands who have sought refuge across the borders.
We have now 800,000 people displaced inside the country and 250,000 new refugees, some of them refugees for the second time, with Ethiopia receiving 80,000 of them, is indeed a tragedy.
While peace talks to end the political dispute in South Sudan have stalled in neighboring Ethiopia, many fear that the number of those displaced could increase. Emmanuel, Igunza, BBC News, Gambella, Ethiopia.
This is Focus on Africa from BBC World.